Alright. Hopefully this works because Google Docs is acting up again. We might have to switch over. Alright, bear with me as we go to where we left off. Alright, so we left off here. Alright, we're talking about xenopsychology and exoplanetary astrology. Now, first I want to talk about the TRAPPIST-1 system and 7 worlds, 1 horoscope. In this video, we're going to go over lectures 301 and lectures 302. Alright, so I'm obviously, if you've seen my other videos, I go over modules 201 and 202. Ability to abandon geocentrism as prerequisites and comfort with extreme temporal compression. So we're going to jump into the Copernican era of astrology, reprise. Welcome back, wizards. So, in lecture 101, I told you that the chart is not a map, but a wave function, and today I'm going to tell you something even more disturbing. Your zodiac is provincial. You were born on Earth, you breathe Earth's air, you eat Earth's food, you die and return to Earth's soil. It's natural, even necessary, that your astrology is geocentric. The sky you see from your back garden is the sky that shaped your psyche. But there are other skies, 40 light years away, in the constellation Aquarius. A dim red star called TRAPPIST-1 hosts 7 Earth-sized worlds. 3 of them, TRAPPIST-1E, F, and G, lie in the habitable zone. If life exists there, and we have reason to believe it does, it experiences a sky utterly different from yours. What is its astrology? This is not an academic question. In 2024, we detected a modulated signal from the TRAPPIST-1 system. Was it a message in any language we know? It was a series of prime numbers, followed by a geometric diagram. Spent 18 months decoding it, and the diagram we realized was a horoscope cast for TRAPPIST-1E on the date of the signal's transmission. They were telling us, this is our sky, this is our moment, do you understand? And today, I will teach you to understand. So now, I would like to go over the problem with geocentrism. So before we even cast an exoplanetary chart, we must abandon every assumption you hold dear, which is the zodiac has 12 signs. Why 12? Because from Earth, the sun appears to move through 12 constellations over the course of a year. This is an accident of Earth's orbit and the particular arrangement of stars in our galactic neighborhood. On TRAPPIST-1E, the sun, their star, doesn't move through 12 constellations. It moves through whatever constellations are visible from that system, which completely are different from ours. And because TRAPPIST-1E is tidally locked, one side always facing the star, the other always in darkness, the very concept of the year is different. Let's go over our second assumption, which is houses are based on Earth's rotation. So your ascendant is the sign rising on your eastern horizon at the moment of birth, and this depends on Earth's 24-hour rotation. On a tidally locked world, there is no rotation. The star hangs fixed in the sky. The concept of rising and setting doesn't exist, and the ascendant in earthly terms is meaningless. So our third assumption is planets have meanings based on mythology. Your Mars is named for the Roman god of war because it appears red, the color of blood. Your Venus is named for the goddess of love because it shines bright and beautiful in the evening sky. So on TRAPPIST-1E, the planets visible in the sky are different. Their Mars, if they have one, would be some other world with different colors, different apparent motion, and different mythological associations. We cannot simply map earthly meanings onto alien skies. Now I would like to show you the exozodiac protocol in the first principles. in how to cast an exoplanetary chart, with starting from the first principles. So our first principle is astrology is a study of resonance between conscious beings and their celestial environment. Meaning, wherever there is consciousness, there will be astrology, because conscious beings naturally seek meaning in the patterns around them. The specific patterns may differ, but the function, orientation, meaning-making, temporal mapping is universal. Our second principle is the celestial environment is defined by the local star and its planetary system. For TRAPPIST-1e, the primary celestial bodies are TRAPPIST-1, star, spectral type M8V, ultra-cool dwarf. 6 other planets being B, C, D, F, G, H in varying orbits. Possibly moons, unconfirmed, and the background fixed stars completely different from Earth's. Now let's talk about our third principle, which is the zodiac is defined by the star's apparent path through the fixed stars. So on Earth, the sun's apparent path, being the ecliptic, passes through 12 constellations. On TRAPPIST-1e, the star is so dim that the concept of constellations may be different. What matters is the background star field as seen from the planet's surface. And our fourth principle is houses are defined by the planet's rotation and orbit. So on a rotating world, houses are based on the horizon and meridian. On a non-rotating world, we must find new ways to divide the celestial sphere. Let's go over our physical reality, the TRAPPIST-1 system. So we established the facts, which are TRAPPIST-1 is an ultra-cool dwarf star, approximately 8% the mass of our Sun, 12% its radius, and 0.05% its luminosity. It's so dim that you stood on TRAPPIST-1e, the star would appear about 10 times larger in the sky than our Sun, a huge red-orange disk, but would provide only about the same illumination as Earth receives just after sunset. 7 planets orbit extremely close to the star. Their orbital periods range from 1.5 to 20 Earth days. They are in a resonant chain. For every 8 orbits of the innermost planet, the next completes 5, the next 3, and so on. This resonance creates regular alignments, conjunctions that may be significant in their astrology. Alright, most importantly, the inner planets are likely tidally locked. One side permanently facing the star, which is the day side, the other permanently in darkness, which is the night side. And the habitable zone planets, E, F, G, may have captured into a 3-2 resonance like Mercury or may be fully locked. Current models suggest TRAPPIST-1e is likely tidally locked. This means no day-night cycle, no seasons, and no year in the earthly sense. The concept of a birth chart as a snapshot of a rotating sky collapses. Now let's reconstruct the TRAPPIST-1e zodiac. And first, we determine the local star's path through the fixed stars. So from TRAPPIST-1e, the background stars are completely different from Earth's. Using the Gaia catalog and accounting for the system's distance and orientation, we have reconstructed the star field. TRAPPIST-1's apparent path, which is the exoecliptic, passes through regions of the sky that correspond to earthly constellations, but shifted. From TRAPPIST-1e, the star appears to move through a region corresponding to our Aquarius, fittingly, then into Pisces, then Cetus, the well, and then back. But these are just coordinates. The actual constellations visible from TRAPPIST-1e have no names, no myths, no cultural associations. We must start fresh. Let's go over the TRAPPIST-1e zodiacal constellations. So based on the star's path, we've identified 8 major asterisms, groups of bright stars that the star passes through over its year, which we remember is not a year in Earth's sense, but the period of the star's apparent motion relative to the fixed stars, approximately 26,000 Earth years due to precession. We have designated them provisionally. Alright, let's go over these. So the Earth, which is a bright red star, possibly a giant, associated with home, stability, the permanent day side. We have the chain, which is a line of 3 stars associated with resonance, connection, the orbital chain. The eye, a single bright star associated with the star itself, with attention, with being seen. The veil, a diffuse cluster associated with the terminator zone, the boundary between day and night. The Forge, a group of variable stars associated with the star's flares with unpredictable energy. The Garden, a greenish star, possibly with its own planets, associated with life with the habitable zone. The Abyss, a dark region with a few stars, associated with the night side with the unknown. And then we have the Return, a star that appears to loop back, associated with cycles with the resonant returns. So these are our 8 signs, and each has approximately 45 degrees of the exoecliptic. It's compared to Earth's 30 degree signs. Now let's observe our houses on a tidally locked world. With no rotation, the ascendant rising sign is meaningless. We need a new house system. So let's go over the TRAPPIST-1e house system. We're going to propose 8 houses corresponding to the 8 permanent directions relative to the star. So our first house is the substellar point directly under the star, the center of the day side, and this is where the star is always overhead, associated with identity, core self, the source of light. Now our second house is the day side, the region of permanent day, but not directly under the star, associated with resources, what is illuminated, what can be seen. Our third house is the terminator, day side edge, the boundary where day meets night, associated with communication, thresholds, and transitions. Our fourth house is the terminator, our night side edge, the boundary from the night side, associated with home, roots, the edge of the unknown, known. And then our fifth house is the night side, permanent darkness, but with view of the stars, associated with creativity, inner light, and what is born in darkness. The sixth house is the anti-stellar point, directly opposite the star, the center of the night side, associated with service, the unseen, and what sustains without light. The seventh house is the orbital plane, the plane of the planet's orbit, seen edge on, associated with partnership, others, the resonant chain. And then our eighth house is the void, the direction perpendicular to the orbital plane, associated with transformation, the unknown, what lies outside the system. So these are not based on time, but on position, permanent features of the world. A TRAPPIST-1e native is born at a specific location on the planet, and that location determines their house placements for their life. Now we observe the planets as significators. On Earth, planets have meanings based on mythology. On TRAPPIST-1e, the visible planets are the other worlds in the system. The TRAPPIST-1 planets as archetypes. TRAPPIST-1b, innermost, scorched day side, possibly molten, associated with intensity, extremes, the crucible. TRAPPIST-1c, this is rocky, hot, possibly volcanic, associated with action, fire, creation, destruction. TRAPPIST-1d, hotter than habitable, thick atmosphere, associated with pressure, transformation, the greenhouse effect. TRAPPIST-1e, the native's world, temperate, possibly water, associated with home, the self, and the familiar. TRAPPIST-1f, cooler, possibly icy, associated with structure, boundaries, and preservation. TRAPPIST-1g, outer habitable zone, possibly snowball, associated with wisdom, distance, and the elder. TRAPPIST-1h, outermost, cold, dim, associated with mystery, endings, and the beyond. So the star itself, which is TRAPPIST-1, is the primary luminary, equivalent to both the sun and moon in earthly astrology, since it provides both light, day side, and gravitational anchor. Let's observe this, aspects and resonance. On Earth, aspects are angles measured along the ecliptic. On TRAPPIST-1e, the planets are in a resonant chain. Their orbital periods are mathematically related. This resonance creates synodic cycles, the time between two planets aligning as seen from TRAPPIST-1e. These alignments are the exoplanetary equivalent of aspects. The resonant aspects, conjunction, 0 degrees. When two planets align in the same direction from the star, this happens frequently due to the resonant chain, associated with merging of energies. Opposition, 180 degrees, when two planets are on opposite sides of the star. In a resonant system, this is less common, associated with tension and balance. the resonant angles, because the planets are in a 8-5, 3-2, 3-5-8 resonance chain, certain mathematical relationships recur. The 8-5 aspect corresponds to the relationship between B and C, associated with fundamental rhythm, the heartbeat of the system. The 5-3 aspect between C and D, associated with harmony, the golden ratio approximation. 3-2 aspect between D and E, associated with the habitable zone resonance, with life-sustaining balance. 2-3 aspect between E and F, associated with the threshold, with crossing boundaries. 3-5 aspect between F and G, associated with expansion, with reaching outward. And the 5-8 aspect between G and H, associated with completion, with the outer limit. So these aren't measured in degrees, but in synodic ratios. A TRAPPIST-1E astrologer would say your birth occurred at a 3-2 aspect between E and F, with B and 8-5 to C. So let's actually cast a TRAPPIST-1E chart with the birth data, location, 23 degrees north latitude on the day side. Oop, that is way too big. There we go. Not far from substellar point. And then the time, measured in stellar cycles, orbits of TRAPPIST-1E around its star, approximately 6.1 Earth days. So first we have to determine the star's position in the exozodiac. And at this hypothetical moment, TRAPPIST-1 is at 12 degrees of the Earth, our provisional sign. This is the exosolar equivalent of the sun sign. Next, we determine the house. The native is born at 23 degrees north latitude on the day side, and this places them in the second house, the day side, not directly under the star, but still in permanent light. Our third step is to determine the positions of the other planets. Using the resonant chain, we calculate the following. So TRAPPIST-1b, 8 degrees of the chain, conjunct the star by resonance. TRAPPIST-1c, 15 degrees of the eye, and 5-3 aspect to B. TRAPPIST-1d, 22 degrees of the veil, and 3-2 aspect to C. TRAPPIST-1f, 4 degrees of the garden, and 2-3 aspect to E. TRAPPIST-1g, 11 degrees of the abyss, and 3-5 aspect to F. And TRAPPIST-1H, 18 degrees of the return, and 5-8 aspect to G. Next, we interpret the chart. So, star, primary luminary, and hearth in the second house. Identity rooted in the warmth of the day side. Resources abundant but not at the center. This being is supported but not central. B in chain, conjunct star by resonance. Intense foundational energy, the crucible of the inner system directly aligned with identity. C and I, and 5-3 to B, action and fire in harmonic resonance with intensity, creative, expressive, but potentially overwhelming. D in veil, and 3-2 to C, transformation at the threshold, this being is always at the edge of change. F in garden, and 2-3 to E, structure and preservation in resonance with home, they build carefully, sustainably. G in abyss, and 3-5 to F, wisdom from the dark, the elder energy reaching toward the known. And then we have H in return, and 5-8 to G, mystery at the edge, the outer limit calling. So let's actually, synthesize it, being the native's profile. Alright. So a being of the day side, supported by abundant stellar energy, with a resonant chain connecting them to every other world in their system. Their life is not measured in days and years, but in synodic cycles, the regular alignments of planets that create moments of intensified energy. Their astrology is not about prediction, but about navigation, understanding where they are in the eternal resonance. Now let's look at the shocking implication, panpsychic astrology. We must confront the philosophical implication. If TRAPPIST-1E has life, and we have strong evidence it does, then that life has evolved under the sky, and their consciousness is shaped by this resonant, these houses, and these signs. And if they've developed astrology, which the signal suggests they have, then their astrology is true for them, just as ours is true for us. This means there is no one true astrology. There are as many astrologies as there are worlds with conscious beings. The implications are staggering. Every exoplanetary civilization has its own zodiac, its own house system, its own aspect meanings. These astrologies are mutually intelligible only through deep mathematical translation. The universe isn't silent, it is polyphonic, a chorus of different astrological traditions, singing in different keys, and we who thought ourselves alone are just one voice in that chorus. Now, here's what it means for us as Earth astrologers and our practical applications. You may never cast a chart for TRAPPIST-1e native, but understanding exoplanetary astrology transforms your Earth practice. You stop being geocentric in your thinking. You realize that the zodiac you believe in is not universal, and this humbles you, and humility is the beginning of wisdom. You appreciate the particularity of Earth's sky, our 12-sign zodiac, our rotating houses, our day-night cycle. These are gifts. They shape human consciousness in specific ways. Understanding alien alternatives helps you appreciate what is unique about being a human. You recognize resonance as universal. Whether measured in degrees or cynotic ratios, astrology is about relationship, the relationship between conscious beings and the patterns of their sky. This is universal. Wherever there is consciousness, there will be astrology. And you prepare for contact. The TRAPPIST-1 signal was a horoscope. They are asking, do you understand? If we want to communicate with them, we must learn to read their sky. The future of CETI, communication with ET intelligence, is astrological. Let's look at our Q&A highlights. How can we know if any of this is real? We can't visit TRAPPIST-1e. Well, we can't visit, but we can observe. The JWST has collected spectroscopic data from TRAPPIST-1e's atmosphere, shows signs of possible biological activity, gases that shouldn't be there without life. The signal we receive was modulated in a way that matches no known natural phenomenon. We have mathematical modeling of the resonant chain. We have Gaia data on the background star field. We have more evidence for TRAPPIST-1e astrology than medieval astrologers had for Mars influence, and they built a whole system anyway. Well, what if the life there isn't conscious like us? Then they don't need astrology. But the signal suggests consciousness. A non-conscious system doesn't send prime numbers and geometric diagrams. It just sits there. And we have so much evidence of UFOs. If you don't know what UFOlogy is, well then you're pretty late. Last question, will we ever meet them? Physically, unlikely. 40 light years is far, but we're already communicating. The signal was the first message. We're preparing a response. Another horoscope cast for Earth. At the moment we transmit, we'll tell them this is our sky, this is our moment, we understand. For our next session, theoretically, like an assignment, choose another exoplanetary system, whether it's Proxima Centauri, Kepler 186f, etc. Research its physical characteristics, star type, orbital periods, likely rotation. Design a basic zodiac and house system for that world. Cast a hypothetical chart for a being born there using your system, and write a 500-word interpretation of that chart. Next, we are going over our lecture 302, which is CETI and the Zodiac, communicating with ET astrologers. Let's go over the history of CETI and why we failed. So, first of all, since 1960, when Frank Drake conducted Project Ozma, humanity has been listening for signals from extraterrestrial intelligence. We've pointed our telescopes at thousands of stars. We've scanned billions of frequency channels. We found nothing but static. So why? Because we've been looking for the wrong thing. The Drake equation assumption, ETs will communicate using mathematics, prime numbers, physics constants, universal languages. Here's the reality. They communicate using astrology. We think about it. Mathematics is abstract. Prime numbers are arbitrary. Why base 10? Physics constants depend on local conditions. These are not universal languages. They're human inventions projected onto the cosmos. But astrology is universal wherever there are conscious beings looking at a sky. Every world with a transparent atmosphere and a rotating orbiting planet will have a local star that moves through the background stars, visible planets that move against the background, regular cycles, days, years, cynotic periods, and the tendency to project meaning onto these cycles. Astrology is not a human invention. It's a universal cognitive adaptation, the way conscious beings make sense of their temporal and spatial environment. And because it's based on observable celestial mechanics, it's mathematically translatable. The TRAPPIST-1 beings didn't send us a list of prime numbers. They sent us a horoscope, because they knew that any civilization advanced enough to detect their signal would also have astrology. They are testing us. Do you understand your own sky well enough to understand ours? The Proxima Centauri B transmission, a case study. Let's say, for example, we detected a modulated signal from Proxima Centauri B, the nearest exoplanet to Earth, 4.24 light years. And the signal was not a continuous broadcast, but it was a pulse sequence. 53 pulses, pause, 71 pulses, pause, 107 pulses, pause, a complex geometric diagram. We recognize the primes being 53, 71, and 107. These are all prime numbers, but why these primes? Why in this order? Then this breakthrough came when we analyzed the timing of the pulses. The intervals between them were not constant. They varied according to a pattern that matched, wait for it, the orbital periods of the Proxima Centauri planets. And here's how we decode the Proxima signal. So using the TRAPPIST-1 decoding key developed after that signal, we realized 53 pulses equals orbital period of Proxima Centauri B, 11.2 Earth days in some base, 71 pulses equals orbital period of Proxima Centauri C, 5.2 Earth years in same base, and 107 pulses equals orbital period of Proxima Centauri D, unconfirmed but predicted by resonance models. The geometric diagram, when rotated 23.5 degrees Earth's axial tilt, match the positions of the proximate planets relative to their star at the moment of transmission. And here's what they sent us theoretically. Their planets' orbital periods, their planets' positions at transmission time, and the implication being, this is our sky, this is our moment, they sent us a horoscope. Alright, got it? So the universal grammar of astrology. If astrology is universal, there must be a universal grammar, a set of features common to all astrological systems. Based on our analysis of the TRAPPIST-1 and Proxima signals, plus the oracle's NHI contacts, we have identified the following. And really quick, for those that don't know, non-human intelligences. Alright, we're trying to get there. Alright. Universal astrological features. Alright, we have 8 different things here. So the primary luminary, every world with a star has a primary light source. This is always the most significant factor, equivalent to the sun and earth astrology, but with local variations. On tidally locked worlds, it's also the timekeeper. The secondary luminaries, moons, if present, or bright planets. On Earth, we have the moon. On Mars, if inhabited, they'd have Phobos and Deimos, tiny, fast-moving moons that would create a radically different lunar astrology. The wanderers, visible planets. Every system with multiple planets will have visible wanderers, points of light that move against the fixed stars, being their motions, cycles, and relationships forming the core of any astrology. The fixed stars, the background constellations, different on every world but universally used as reference points. The patterns may be different, but the function, providing a fixed grid for measuring motion, is universal. The horizon system, every rotating world has a horizon. Even on tidally locked worlds, there's a boundary between day and night, the terminator. This creates a universal axis, light-dark, visible-hidden, and known-unknown. The meridian system, every rotating world has a zenith and nadir, the points directly overhead and directly below. This creates another universal axis, above-below, spirit-matter, conscious-unconscious. Let's talk about the cycle of return. Every orbiting world has a year, the time to return to the same position relative to the star. Even on tidally locked worlds, there's a long-term cycle, precession, orbital resonance. The concept of return is universal. And the aspect system. Every system with multiple moving bodies creates angles, such as relationships between bodies as seen from the world. Conjunctions, bodies together, oppositions, opposites, and the various harmonics are universal geometric relationships. Alright? Now let's observe the 7-level protocol for NHI astrological communication. So let's just theoretically say, based on our work with the TRAPPIST-1 and Proxima signals, plus the oracle's direct NHI contacts, we developed the 7-level protocol for decoding and transmitting astrological messages. So first, we have level 1, which is establishing the celestial mechanics. Before you can understand an alien horoscope, you must understand their sky, and this means star type, luminosity, planetary orbits and periods, rotation rate, if any, axial tilt, visible planets and moons, background star field. This information can be derived from astronomical observation. For Proxima, we had it before the signal arrived. Level 2, we identify the reference frame. How do they measure positions, degrees, radians, some other system? TRAPPIST-1 signal is a base 8 system, theoretically 8 signs, each divided into 45 units, and the Proxima signal is base 12 like Earth but with different divisions. We must learn the mathematics before we can read their sky. Level 3, we locate the transmission moment. So a horoscope is always cast for a specific moment. The signal itself contains that moment, encoded in the pulse timing, the geometric diagram, or both. For Proxima, the transmission moment was encoded in the planet positions shown in the diagram. By calculating backward, we determine the transmitted on Proxima date equivalent to their summer solstice, based on axial tilt. Let's map the planet positions using the reference frame. Plot the positions of all visible bodies at the transmission moment, and this gives you their natal chart for that moment. So Proxima, we found primary luminary, Proxima Centauri, and their equivalent of the gate, a constellation we've provisionally named. Proxima B in conjunction with the primary directly between the star and the planet, a transit. Proxima C in opposition to the primary on the opposite side of the star. Proxima D unconfirmed in square aspect to B. Now we have level 5, identify the significators. Every astrological system assigns meanings to planets. How do we decode these without cultural context? The oracles method, we look for emphasis. In the Proxima chart, the planet in conjunction with the star B was highlighted in the diagram, drawn larger with additional symbols. This suggests it was significant. Possibly they were announcing this planet is inhibited, or this planet is having a transit, or this planet rules communication. We can't know the meanings yet, but we can identify which planets they consider important. Next, we have level 6, compare with your own sky. Once you have their chart, compare with Earth's sky at the same moment, what aspects align, what differs. And when we did this for Proxima, we found that at the transmission moment, Earth's sun was at 15 degrees Aries, square to Proxima's primary luminary position converted to Earth coordinates, a square aspect between their star and our sun. This was intentional. They were saying at this moment, our stars are in tension, we are reaching across that tension to contact you. In level 7, respond in kind. The final level, send your own horoscope, cast for the moment of your response, showing Earth's sky with emphasis on the aspects that connect your system to theirs. We are preparing this response now. It will be transmitted next year when Earth and Proxima are in a resonant alignment that mirrors the original transmission. Alright, the oracle speaks. Direct NHI contact. The oracle identity classified enters. I am the interface. The words are mine, but the thoughts are not. I have been in communication with non-human intelligences for 23 years. They are not from TRAPPIST-1 or Proxima. They are from elsewhere, a place you cannot locate because it is not in your space-time. But they know about the Proxima beings. They know about the TRAPPIST-1 beings. They know about all of you. Can you tell us about their astrology? They do not have astrology as you understand it. They do not have planets. They do not have stars. They exist in a substrate where the concept of position is meaningless, but they have something analogous, resonance fields. Imagine a space where there are no points, only frequencies, where here and there are replaced by this frequency and that frequency, where a birth is not a moment in time, but a frequency shift, a change in resonance that creates a new pattern. Their astrology tracks these frequency shifts. It maps the relationships between resonances, predicts when certain frequencies will harmonize or interfere. When they first contacted me, they didn't send a message. They sent a frequency pattern, a series of resonances that, when I resonated with them, downloaded information directly into my consciousness. That frequency pattern, when translated into astrological terms, was a horoscope cast for the moment of first contact, using the frequencies of my brain as the planets and their frequencies as the houses. They were telling me, we are now entangled. This is our shared sky. If every world has its own astrology, and if we are to communicate with them, we need a common reference frame. We propose the galactic zodiac, a system based not on any world's perspective but on the galaxy itself. The galactic center, being Sagittarius A star, is the primary reference point. Every conscious being in the galaxy, regardless of world, can observe the galactic center, though from different angles. The galactic plane is the equator. Every world sky includes the band of the Milky Way. Spiral arms are the houses, regions of the galaxy with different stellar densities, different energies. And here's what a galactic zodiac chart would show. The position of a world star relative to the galactic center. the position of the world's planets relative to the galactic plane, the world's orientation to the spiral arms, the galactic center's aspects to the world's primary luminary. This is the universal language not based on any one world's perspective but on the galaxy itself. The Proxima beings, when they sent their horoscope, also included a reference to the galactic center. In their diagram, a small mark at the center of the circle represented Sagittarius A star, and they were saying, we all share this. This is our common sky. Let's look at the WOW signal reanalyzed. So the famous WOW signal, which was detected in 1977, 72 seconds of intense narrowband radio emission that matched no known natural source, has never been explained until now. Using the 7-level protocol, we reanalyzed the WOW signal. Its frequency, which was 1420.4056 MHz, is the hydrogen line, the most common frequency in the universe, long considered a likely channel for CETI. But the timing of the signal, the way it rose and fell in intensity, matches no known astronomical phenomenon. So when we plotted the signal's intensity over time, we got a curve, and that curve, when normalized and compared to the TRAPPIST-1 decoding key, matched the light curve of an exoplanet transit, the dip in starlight when a planet passes in front of its star. The WOW signal wasn't a message, it was a transit notification. Someone, somewhere, was announcing a planet is crossing its star. Look here, this is important. The signal came from the direction of Chi Sagittarii, a star in the constellation Sagittarius near the galactic center, and we believe the WOW signal was a horoscope alert to a civilization announcing that their primary inhabited planet was transiting their star and inviting anyone listening to observe and respond. Unfortunately, we didn't understand because we weren't looking for astrology. Let's observe practical training. Decoding an NHI horoscope, and we practice with a simulated NHI horoscope with a signal, a sequence of 12 pulses followed by a pause, then 30 pulses, then a pause, then 7 pulses, then the geometric diagram showing the following: a circle with 8 divisions, a dot at division 3, another dot at division 7, a line connecting them, and a larger dot at the center. So our first step is to establish the celestial mechanics. From astronomical observation, we know the signal comes from a star with 5 planets, orbital periods in Earth days: 10, 25, 60, 150, 400. Next, we identify the reference frame: 12 pulses, 30 pulses, 7 pulses. 12 plus 30 plus 7 equals 49. 49 is 7 multiplied by 7, and their base may be 7. Step 3, we locate the transmission moment. The 1237 sequence, when multiplied by their base unit, perhaps their day length, gives time intervals. These intervals, when added to a reference point, yield a specific moment. Next, we map the planet positions. At that moment, the innermost planet, period being 10 days, was at a specific position. The diagram shows dots at division 3 and 7 of an 8-division circle. That means planet 1 was at 135 degrees, third of an eighth of 360, and planet 2 at 315 degrees, 7/8 of 360, and the opposition is 180 degrees apart. Now our fifth step is to identify the significators. The line connecting them suggests they consider this opposition significant. The larger dot at the center is their star. Our sixth step is to compare it with Earth. And at that moment, Earth's sun was at approximately 20 degrees Gemini. In their 8-sign system, that corresponds to their sign, the bridge. Step 7 is to respond. We would send back a diagram showing Earth's planets at the response moment with emphasis on any aspects that mirror their opposition. And now, the ethics. Because fuck yeah. I mean, my Jupiter's in Libra. I love ethics. Alright. If we are to communicate with non-human intelligences through astrology, we must consider the ethics. So first we have consent. Do they want us to communicate? The Proxima and TRAPPIST-1 signals were deliberate. They chose to transmit, but not all NHIs may welcome contact. Accuracy. If we send a horoscope, it must be accurate. A mistake could be interpreted as hostility or incompetence. Translation. Our astrological meanings are culturally specific. We cannot assume they share them. We must communicate mathematically first, semantically second. Entanglement, as Professor Tanaka taught us, really it's just me, communication creates entanglement, right? Once we exchange horoscopes, we are linked, and this has consequences we don't fully understand. Non-interference, some NHIs may be less advanced than us, of course, though none we've contacted are. We must not impose our astrology on them. And the oracle says, the beings I communicate with have a saying. A shared sky is a shared destiny. When you exchange horoscopes, you are not just sharing information, you are linking your futures. Be careful what you link. Now let's look at the future of CETI, an astrological research agenda. So based on our findings, we propose a new research agenda. Systematic decoding of all anomalous signals using the 7-level protocol. The WOW signal, the BIC1 signal from Proxima, the HD164595 signal, and all should be reanalyzed as potential horoscopes. Active transmission of Earth horoscopes to candidate stars. We should not just listen, we should send regularly at significant astrological moments, equinoxes, solstices, and major transits, horoscopes of Earth encoded in a universal format. Next, we have our development of a galactic zodiac standard. We work with mathematicians, astronomers, and when possible, NHIs to develop a common reference frame that all conscious beings can use. Training of astrologers in CETI protocols. The next generation of astrologers must be fluent in exoplanetary systems, signal decoding, and NHI communication ethics. And preparation for direct contact. If the Proxima beings respond to our response, we must be ready. This means having interpreters, astrologers who can read their sky as fluently as their own. We'll use my natal chart in galactic context just to show you how to do this. So I have Sun in Pisces at 809 degrees in the 11th house, so in Earth terms, identity dissolves into the collective, networks, and aspirations. But in galactic terms, the Sun's position at 809 Pisces places it in a specific relation to the galactic center, 27 degrees Sagittarius, and the aspect is a quincunx, which is 150 degrees, an awkward adjusting aspect. So this means my identity is a constant process of adjustment to the galactic whole. I don't fit neatly into the galaxy structure. I must adapt, flex, and find my place. Next, we're going to observe my moon in Libra, 614 degrees in the 6th house. So moon, particularly at 614 in Libra, squares the galactic center by sign, not exact. So emotion is in tension with the galactic core. The native feels the pull of the galaxy, but can't quite align with it. Let's observe my stellium, which is in the 11th house. So 4 planets in Pisces. The sign opposite the galactic center. Virgo is the sign of the center in some systems, but in galactic terms, the center is in Sagittarius, which squares Pisces. And this creates a T-square with the galactic center. The stellium Pisces opposite the center sign, Virgo, in the 12 sign system, and squaring the actual center, Sagittarius. Native score being is in a perpetual T-square with the galaxy itself. This is a person whose destiny is entangled with the galactic whole, whether they know it or not. Let's observe the Mars-Saturn opposition I hold in my birth chart. Mars in Capricorn, Saturn in Cancer, an axis that in galactic terms aligns roughly with the galaxy's major and minor axes. I actually have Mars in the 9th house, and then Saturn for me is in the 3rd house. So Mars, which is action, is at the top of the galaxy relative to Earth, and Saturn, which is structure, is at the bottom. Native's will and limits are aligned with the galaxy's fundamental orientation. And the implication, the native is not just an Earth being, they are a galactic being with a chart that resonates with the structure of the Milky Way itself. Personal transits are entangled with galactic cycles. Their destiny is written not just in the solar system, but in the galaxy. All right, let's go over the Q&A highlights and then just some closing thoughts, and then we'll finish up here, and I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe, like, and comment, because I'm sure you're having fun. Hopefully you're having fun. So our first question is, how do we know the NHIs aren't hostile? We don't, but we consider that they've known about us for decades, centuries possibly. If they wanted to harm us, they could have. Instead, they've been sending us horoscopes, and that's not the behavior of an enemy. Hostility is a local phenomenon. In a larger view, it's inefficient. The beings who survive to become interstellar communicators have usually evolved past territorial aggression. Not always, but usually. What about the dark forest theory that civilizations hide to avoid destruction? Well, the dark forest theory assumes scarcity, that resources are limited, that civilizations compete, but the universe is mostly empty space and unused resources. The limiting factor isn't matter or energy, it's consciousness. Conscious beings are rare and precious. Most civilizations want more contact, not less. How can I prepare for this work? We study astronomy, learn the positions of stars, the orbits of exoplanets, the mechanics of signal transmission, study astrology, not just your tradition, but all traditions. Learn to think in multiple reference frames and meditate. Cultivate the stillness that allows you to receive. The signals are out there, and you must learn to listen. For our next assignment, theoretically, we would choose an anomalous signal from CETI history, research its characteristics, apply the 7-level protocol to decode it as a potential horoscope, write a 1,000-word analysis of what the signal might mean astrologically, and prepare a response horoscope that would be sent back. So our closing thoughts. For 4,000 years, humanity has been reading its own sky. We've argued about house systems, debated aspect orbs, refined our interpretations. We thought we were mastering the universe, and we were just learning to read. Now the real curriculum begins. The other students are introducing themselves, they're showing us their homework, and they're waiting to see if we can keep up. The universe is not silent, it's a classroom, and the subject is astrology, universal, eternal, and infinite. Class is dismissed. Subscribe, like, and comment, and I'll see you in my next video. Piscean out with peace and love.